What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers Without Filters podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and I'm still on the White Claws. I'm trying out natural lime tonight.
I'm Joseph DeGranchamp, and I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so I'm just hitting up that key lime LaCroix.
Lacrax.
Lacrax. LaCroix. LaCroix.
It's pronounced LaCroix, you dumb shit.
Dumb shits. So that's where I'm at today. So it's still bubbly, but sadly no alcohol.
I'm Gabe, and I'm still going through the Point Trail Ales because it's only been a couple of days since our last episode. So
Hey, don't spoilers, alright?
And I'm Dayton, and I'm drinking the Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA. It's pretty good.
Oh, that one's good.
Yeah, I've had that one a couple times. It's really good.
I'm a big fan of hazies.
Hazy is
yeah.
like, if that's on your beer, I'm just gonna nut and then drink it. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's why it's hazy.
In that order.
Hazy, juicy IPA. I'm all over it.
Ooh, that's good.
Also, Joseph, you're definitely right. You really can't fuck up lime, and this tastes very good.
Yeah, it's a solid flavor. It goes.
Dude, why do you think that's like all I drank? Well, like the poor man's White Claw in the dorms. I literally just got lime LaCroix and some bottom shelf vodka, put it in my blender bottle, called it good.
See, I tried lime LaCroix one time. It's been a while, so I should retry it. But it was aggressively lime, and I did not.
That's why you water it down with vodka.
I've never been a huge fan of sparkling waters. I don't know why. I don't know. It hasn't been my thing.
That's why this is seltzer, Gabe. That's different.
I was referring to Joseph's drink, but all right.
I use it to make gin and tonics. So
Oh, okay. This is making a lot more
That's why we
sense.
have it.
Yeah, it's very rare that I drink it without gin.
Drink it.
And I get the lime because I'm too lazy to get actual limes.
And
for
it
it.
honestly tastes fine to do it that way.
Yeah, it's honestly fine. It's not real like tonic, but
Joseph's the type of
It's
guy
just
to buy orange juice as a mixer, not as a breakfast beverage.
That's again. It's so funny because like sometimes Cooper will come over and he'll bring like liquor and he'll open up fridge like, "Where are you guys' mixers?" And we're like, "We don't have fucking mixers. We have LaCroix. That's about it. We have milk. You want to use that? Like we don't."
Aw.
I don't drink liquor, and Joseph only drinks gin and tonic. So
Yeah, I don't either.
I do have some whiskey, but I don't drink it.
We still haven't. We were supposed to make mixed drinks for one of these episodes. We still haven't done it.
Next week, we have to make a note of that.
I'll write it down.
Put it in
my
the
notes
Google
right
calendar.
now.
If I'm not still
mixed
sick, I'll be on board for it.
Drinks.
Nah, dude. Then you can just put some like honey or something like that and some
Yeah, there
like,
you
Jack.
Some ginseng. Throw some ginseng in there. That's always good.
Or just mix Verner's with like
There you go.
Bacardi. That'll clear you out real quick.
On both ends, probably.
Verner's
Yeah.
and Fireball. That'll really clear you out.
Oh, yikes, dude.
That's some Michigan college shit if I've ever heard it.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is episode 45. Don't forget you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at EWF Podcast. And you can find episodes of our show every Monday on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. So since this is episode 45, we're going to start doing something a little bit different. So basically every 5 episodes on the 5s, we're going to do a podcast with STEM topics. Because we are an engineering quote-unquote podcast. And we did STEM topics a few episodes ago when we were getting drunk. So that'll be fun just to kind of have that as a recurring segment and get more of our, I guess, knowledge out there, or things we're interested in besides just us fucking around. So this will be a STEM episode, and we're gonna skip the BuzzFeed quiz this week because they are just garbage right now.
They're worse than normal.
Yeah, which is hard
I feel
to do.
like we should like farm through them throughout the week, but I don't want to subject any of us to that to constantly check the BuzzFeed quizzes.
Checking it twice a day, and just like your eyes are bleeding.
Dude, if anyone's like, "Hey, can I Google something real quick?" and it starts with the letter B, I'm gonna be sweating. All right, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing on BuzzFeed?"
Dude, that's why you gotta use the incognito mode.
Right.
Pro tip.
But then you can't bookmark them if you want to keep them. You know?
You can just copy the URLs.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Put it in a random
Put
notepad.
it in Google Doc.
Yeah,
or,
untitled note.
Yeah. In a locked
to see
folder.
this.
Hide your
Alright,
shame.
so who has a STEM topic they want to start off with?
I have one, and I know that
Uh,
mine kind of goes into what Gabe wanted to talk about.
Oh, sweet.
So mine is about meteorites. So I'm not sure if that's the right term, because I know there's meteoroids and then
Meteorite
meteorites.
is when it's in Earth, I think.
Okay, yeah, so that's the right one. So I'm talking when
Yeah,
like, they get to Earth.
There's one where it's in space, one where it burns up in the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and one that makes it.
Yeah, so I'm
There's
talking about the one that
meteor-
like makes it to Earth.
That's an.
Are you talking about the meteorites that like you use to evolve Clefairy into Clefable?
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
a moonstone, you idiot.
Well,
Isn't
okay,
it?
but same
Oh, you're right.
same sort of
Totally
deal.
moonstone.
Same sort of deal, I guess.
I mean,
But
it's
there's still
probably
an
a
item.
meteorite.
There's
There
still
are
an
meteorites in
item.
a lot of the Pokemon games.
Mhm.
And say
There
it's
is.
still an item in the game, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let it pass.
But anyway, so I was just earlier this morning. I was just on YouTube and I was just kind of clicking around, seeing what I could find. And I've been like watching this guy who does a lot of like forging and like bladesmithing and stuff like that. Mainly just because I've been getting more into like metals. Like aside from what like I thought I was gonna be getting into like
Dayton,
in college.
why would you backstab me like this?
Dude, I'm just saying, like they're pretty cool. Like once you learn more about them, I guess. Like not just like the boring shit that you learn in school.
Yeah.
So
They're turning
anyway.
you, Dayton. They're turning to a real MSE.
I know, against my will too. But anyway, so this guy, he had a video on if you could forge a meteorite, and I mean, aside from my disgust of how this guy just got this meteorite and he just stuck it under this bandsaw and like cut it up, and I was just like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, shouldn't that be in like a museum or something? Like, I don't know, because
Belongs in a museum.
it was a pretty big chunk. Like, I mean, I think he said it was like 11 pounds. So I mean, that's a good chunk of metal.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
But anyway, so like he was cutting it and he was like sectioning it, and he dipped it in acid to like etch it, and like it revealed that it wasn't like a homogeneous structure. Like it wasn't like how if you took like just like a piece of steel or whatever, and if you etched that, then it would be more or less homogeneous. It would be the same all around. But with the meteorite, it had sections that were like iron heavy, and then sections that like had other shit in it, and there were like a whole bunch of inclusions and stuff. So basically, the meteorite is just like an ore, like
Yeah.
iron ore or whatever. And
So,
of course,
sorry, quick question.
Uh-huh.
Did they do any kind of chemical analysis on this to see what elements were in there?
So the guy who sent it to him did a chemical analysis, and he said that it was primarily iron, nickel. I remember him saying that there was some germanium, some gallium, and then some like silicon, I think. So it wasn't like any sort of like typical alloy that is used.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. But yeah, so I mean, long story short, is he tried to forge, which for people who don't know what forging is, you just heat up metal below its melting point, but like enough to where it's like really freaking hot, and you just like smash it down and deform it. Because as things get hotter, then you can kind of they're more malleable. Yeah, and you can kind of make them into whatever shape you want. But he was trying to do that with an ore, essentially, which has a whole bunch of like oxides and like cracks and shit in it.
It's
just,
unrefined, is what it is. It's
yeah.
a bunch
So
of bullshit.
yeah, so he
Usually.
wasn't very successful in it.
Wait, so we didn't melt it like all the way down to liquid?
No, he didn't melt it at all. He literally just sectioned it, heated up in his forge, and then
Smacked it.
he like
What the
smacked
fuck?
it.
Well, when you forge, you don't. Excuse me. When you forge, you don't melt it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
it's not a
it-
cast,
it-
but it's just like if it's not homogeneous, it's just like
Well, what
what's
he
the
should have
point
done,
then?
what he should have done is he should have melted it down, and then he should have used like a ladle or whatever, and just got all like the shit metal out of it, like all like the phosphorus and oxides and stuff, and then should have cast that into a billet or whatever, and then forged it from there. But I mean, then it would kind of get rid of some like the cool properties that the meteorite has. But yeah, he wasn't successful in forging it, which I mean I wasn't expecting him to be, but it was pretty cool, because then it got me thinking about like jewelry, like meteorite jewelry, because it'd be pretty easy to just like cut a section of it, and then, you know, like make like a necklace or something like that, or a bracelet, or even like rings out of it. And I looked at them, and they're really fucking expensive. It's like a ring is like $400. So, which I mean, considering like rings, like that's not that much, but it's $400 still.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me though, because like the only reason that it's expensive is because it was from space.
Yeah.
But like the actual component elements are not that uncommon.
No. Nope.
You know, like it's mostly iron, but like gallium and germanium, like those are more rare, but they're still not like unheard of. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the fact that it was from outer space that's why it's so like special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Because like, yeah, I don't know. I wish he would have like melted it all the way down and seen what that combination of elements did as like a homogeneous thing.
Yeah.
Just to see how strong it was.
Yeah, because I mean, he obviously has the means to. I mean, his furnace can obviously get up to, you know, like ridiculously high temperatures, but I just don't think that was something that crossed his mind, because I don't think he's ever done any cast things. He's only ever done forging. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I will say when you first started talking about it though, it's I just reminded like of video games, like when you have like a sword, you upgrade it and it's like, you know, iron and then steel and like you like to the meteorite level, and it's like, oh yeah, give me the meteorite shit. Like it's obviously not realistic at all, but it always seems so cool to have that stuff in video games.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's rare, right? So like, it makes you think that it's good, but I mean, rare doesn't always mean good.
I mean, like gold, right? Gold would be like it's always funny to me in video games when you have like a gold pickaxe, because gold's one of the softest metals there is. Like it would be complete garbage.
Yeah, that would literally be awful. Unless it were like alloyed with something, but then it kind of takes away from it being gold, right?
Well, in like
Yeah,
Minecraft,
like,
gold, like anything's useless because it breaks down faster than like the iron stuff.
Right. So I mean,
As
that's
it should.
use. That's
There's a little bit of accuracy.
Yeah, that's more accurate. But it's like a diamond pickaxe would be awful.
Oh yeah.
Like
But it
because
looks
it has no toughness. It would just like, I mean, it's like hard as hell. But I mean, if you hit it like super hard, it would still break, obviously. So.
Come on,
unless
Minecraft.
it was like perfectly like flawless, I suppose.
Well, I mean, even then, like if you hit it hard enough, it'll still overcome like the tensile strength, or I guess compressive strength, depending on which orientation you're hitting it in. But yeah.
I feel like any defect in that though would just, you know, I feel like reduce its
Yeah, or
strength
even
considerably.
like the stress concentrators, like the corners, like how like the Minecraft pickaxe is actually, like it's like cornered, right? So like it has like the 90-degree corners and like the drawing. Oh yeah, dude, that thing's fucked.
Absolutely chooched.
Yeah, but Gabe, weren't you gonna talk about like space or something?
Yeah, I mean, space is such a fucking wide topic, but I guess like the thing that I always kind of come back to when I'm thinking about it is like how old everything is, and you don't really ever think about it that much. But like, sure, someone's like probably wearing it as a ring right now, but that thing's been around for so fucking long I can't even conceive it. And that just always like kind of blows my mind. Like sometimes even if I'm like going on a hike or something, and you like pick up a rock and you're like, this rock is easily millions of years old, or you know, even longer at some points.
Yeah, I
stuff
mean, like
always
that
kinda-
meteorite was like 4.6 billion years old, I think.
Oh
he said.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, how do you even conceive? You know, like humans are only around for what? I mean, 80 years if average or something. I don't know what the average is, but I'd say 80. I feel like 4.6 billion years is just nuts. And
Yeah,
like,
on the cosmological scale, we're around for like literally nothing.
fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that it's cool to see like all of those studies, or not studies, theories on like how, you know, like, you know, the whole Big Bang theory or whatever, but like also like the end of the universe. Like, have you heard of like the heat death theory? Where it's
I've
like
heard the name, but I'm not familiar.
essentially it's if everything, so you guys know what entropy is, right? We're like,
Chaos.
Yeah.
Explain it to the listeners.
oh god, it's been a hot minute. So
I mean, I can explain too.
I like to think of it as like,
biology.
the way that someone explained it to me is like, imagine that humans or like any living being is an island of order, in a world of chaos, and I don't mean to use chaos as a meme, but like in a world of like complete disorganization.
Yep.
So the idea that the universe could die out because everything is nothing can interact with itself, because it's too ordered to the point where there's no point in it interacting, or it's too chaotic to where like nothing will interact with itself. If that's the easiest way to put it.
Another way to think about it is that everything is moving more towards disorder than order. So like the example, say you have like two objects, it'd be more likely for them to split into four as opposed to those two to combine into one.
Right. So it's like the idea that things just can't interact with one another, and then the universe just stops, which is just fucking nuts to think about. And that's some theories that like some people thought that before the Big Bang, then like that's what had happened, and then all of a sudden there was just this spark somehow out of nowhere, like just this completely unknown idea of like how that works. And it's just really interesting to see how people think that could end. Like, I don't know, you don't really think of like the end of, I don't know, even Earth, but
humans are too egotistical, and I don't mean that in like the normal way of like a singular person being egotistical. I'm saying like humans are just like worried about humans. Like,
yeah,
we don't really give a shit about like what's happening in like a million billion years or whatever. We're concerned about what's happening now.
Yeah. Well, and there's like, I think before any of this even happens, like our sun is going to turn into like a red giant or something like that, and it's going to consume up to Mars, I think. I want to say it's up to Mars.
That's what I've always heard, is like whenever we go, it's going to be because the sun
right, and that
goes off.
And even then, that's only, I don't know how many years. I couldn't give you a number, but that's a lot shorter on the time scale. But as far as humans go, it's like we don't give a shit. Just, I don't know, just crazy to think about looking at something, even something made by humans, and just thinking how long ago or like what the story is behind those type of things.
Yeah, as long as things don't affect your day-to-day life, you will not care about them. That's just what it comes down to. So until the sun explodes, so there's the big one earthquake that I feel like everyone always is talking about in LA or like New Zealand, right? Until that happens, like, that's why climate change is so hard to like convince people to care about, because it doesn't affect them on a day-to-day basis.
Or economically.
Or economically, yeah.
Yeah.
Another a space thing, and I don't remember if I talked about this on the podcast, but a while ago, like a month or so ago, Joseph and I saw the movie Ad Astra, which is a movie set in space, and it shows the commercialization of space travel. It's in the future when the moon is, I guess I'll say colonized, but it's not in the way you might think. It's mostly like it's a mining planet, so all these different countries have like different areas of the moon where they mine to make money, and there's like a spaceport, and then there's also like they go to Mars, where that's kind of colonized as well. But what was fascinating to me is, Brad Pitt's the main character. He has to go to the moon first so they can go to Mars. So he gets in a Virgin Airlines spaceship, and they fly up. And
was it sponsored by them, or?
I think it wasn't Virgin, Joseph, in the movie.
Yeah, it was.
Well, they actually have those planes, right?
Right, but I mean, like
those are like low orbit.
Virgin probably like paid them.
Oh,
paid to get in the movie,
yeah.
Very well could be.
And like, so they're all sitting in like the cabin, quote unquote cabin, and like the flight attendant's like, oh yeah, you want like the blanket and pillow and stuff, and you got to pay for it. So it's typical like airplane shit, right? But it's just a spaceship. And then he gets to the spaceport on the moon, and they get out, and he goes to the escalator, and he walks down the terminal, and there's like a Subway and a McDonald's, right? And he's like, of course, like we wouldn't do anything different when we go to other planets. We just do the same shit somewhere else, because that's all we know how to do. Like, we're just all about like the capitalism and what we know, what we're familiar with. So like, even while we're colonizing new planets, we had to have a chance to do something completely different. We're still there's still a Subway there, and there's still a McDonald's. And so that to me was so clever, because like, of course we're gonna do that. Of course, like when we get to the moon, there's gonna be these corporations just begging and paying so much money to be on there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fascinating. Like, when we get there someday, I think that's what's really gonna happen. Is we're just gonna copy what we do on Earth, even if it's flawed.
Do you think that, like, let's say, I don't know how many years it's going to take for us to, like, get to Mars and colonize it or whatever, Do you think that that's going to be more of like a private thing, or you think countries are going to try and stake their claim in it? Because I feel like it would just be more of like this company owns this colony, not this country. You
Well,
know
it's
what I
got to
mean?
be
Based
owned
on-
by some like country, though. I feel.
You think? I mean, SpaceX could
I don't
just
know.
go to the Mars, and if they, I mean, they may get some money from the government, but let's say they don't. Like, they could just say, "Wait, this is ours now. Like, we can just live
Like, what's
here."
the government gonna do to stop them? Like, they're already on
Yeah,
Mars.
they're
The
in
government
Mars.
can't get to
What are you
Mars.
gonna
They
do?
can't do
is,
shit.
like, they'll probably end up becoming like their own country, like out there. Like,
Yeah, but I'm
there's
saying,
no
what if
way-
the country's SpaceX Mars or something?
Yeah, I mean,
not
it's-
like.
I think it's probably possible, but I mean, they're going to require a lot of lawyers for that.
Well, what was interesting too in the movies on the moon, like all these different mining areas were like owned by different companies or countries, or whatever, and there was a lot of like hostility. Like there was people like with guns and shooting, and like it was really dangerous to be out there because like it's kind of no man's land. But yeah, I mean, based on how things are going these days, like all these companies like SpaceX and Amazon, like they're putting a ton of money into space exploration because governments aren't doing it. So, you know, the way I like to think about it is I think, you know, Elon Musk thinks the Earth is fucked, so we got to get out of here as soon as possible. You know, kind of
Mhm.
like in Interstellar where we run out of resources, so we have to find somewhere else to live. I think a lot of these big corporations already think that's happening, so they're trying to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Well, the rich people are trying to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As sad as that is.
Yeah.
Which, if they could just use their resources and money to fix Earth, that'd be very helpful.
No.
But they're just like,
You don't
"No, we
get
gotta
it.
out of here."
They need to
Why
leave
help
because-
other people
yeah.
when I can help myself?
Because think how much money they can make if they get to Mars first, and let's say yeah, we're gonna claim the entire planet. If you want a little patch of it, you got to pay us.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like it's an insane opportunity to make money. Not to mention the resources you could probably mine. I don't know what's available up there. You can't get on Earth, but
Yeah.
if we start running out of stuff on Earth, then we'll need to do it.
Well, you even see like Elon Musk's like vision for like terraforming Mars into like a small Earth, essentially, or a smaller Earth. It's an interesting thought.
How would you even?
I don't
though?
think it's very plausible because like they've talked about
You
basically
have to change the
putting-
atmosphere.
They talked about like nuking the poles and it'll create an atmosphere, but I don't think the gravity is strong enough to hold it in or something. There's some like problem mathematically that like won't actually create an atmosphere.
I mean, I've heard a little bit. Yeah, if you nuke the poles, it'll release because it's all full of CO2. The ice caps are
Right, they're carbon.
dioxide. They're not H2O. So that'll help create a greenhouse gas effect. But just doing that really isn't enough. You have to like jumpstart it by somehow like getting plants there to take the CO2 and like convert it and stuff like that, or like probably more so bacteria to help and actually make it livable, rather than just hoping with the ice caps.
Yeah.
So.
Just like a crazy thought that like towards the end of our lives, Mars to some degree it's very possible that there'll be people there permanently. I mean, it may not be like the way we envision it where it's like they're just living like on Earth, but it's still very possible.
But it's just like, to what end, you know? Like, to me, it's kind of like, what's the point? Is it because we're running out of space on Earth? Is it because we're running out of resources? Or is it just for tourism? Is it for mining? Like, what will be the first reason we get
Dude,
up there?
I
Or
would
is it just
tour
Because
to
we
Mars.
can.
What do
You
you
would
think?
tour
reason is-
Mars?
Oh yeah,
Dude, that would take you like, isn't it like a 3-year trip just to get out
3
there?
months I think.
Oh, okay.
It's not that
Still,
bad.
that's a pretty long amount of time though.
Dude, if I'm like 70 and I'm fucking retired, fuck it.
Do you
feel
think
like
a
you're not gonna wanna be in
70-year-old could
space.
handle getting into space though?
Probably not.
Like I'm just talking practically here.
Have you guys seen the movie Passengers? It's Chris Pratt and
Yeah.
That's
I
like
have
okay.
not.
The movie overall is not very good, but the concept.
It's not even really about space. It's just
No.
the fact that they're trapped on a spaceship.
No, but the concept of like the ship is interesting. They basically like put everyone, they suspend everybody, and then they ship them off thousands of light years in the future or whatever. So like people they're the same age when they come back, but it will be like 2,000-3,000 years in the future type of a deal.
Yeah.
So like when they leave, they have to like say goodbye to their family for like ever, right? And it's just like that's such a weird thought to like overcome the amount of time it takes to travel to just like knock everyone out, and then they wake
Yeah,
up.
because like in Ad Astra, you have to, spoilers, you have to add him going to Uranus, and it takes him like 9 months, right, Joseph, to get to Uranus?
Something like that.
Grow up, all right.
Actually, I'm pretty sure it was
Uranus.
Neptune.
It's Uranus.
Was it
I'm pretty
Neptune?
sure- I'm pretty sure it was Neptune, so they didn't have to say Uranus.
Okay, but it's not Uranus. It's Uranus.
Well, whatever. He has to go there. It takes him like 9 months, and he doesn't go into suspended animation. He starts like going crazy by
Cabin fever,
himself.
dude.
And it's interesting.
Well, that even happens in Interstellar, right? Where like they're on these gravity-heavy planets, or they're closer to like
Dude.
black holes. So like if they're there for 5 minutes, it's like
Yeah.
so many years or whatever.
Dude,
Yeah.
the scene where Matthew McConaughey has to watch his kid grow up kills me every single time. It's like
Mhm.
basically what happens, like, yeah, so they're on these like high gravity planets, which means
Oh, that's a
they're-
gift, dude.
the time is passing faster for them than it is on Earth. So like Gabe was saying, like 5 minutes on this planet is like, I don't know, we'll say 5 days on Earth or whatever. Anyway, like they do that a couple times, and Matthew McConaughey gets back and he has these videos from his son who have been sent to him, and his son was like, what, 16 when he left? And he
Yeah.
starts watching these videos and grow up to be like 20, 30, and like, oh my god, it's a heartbreaker, dude. But it's a great fucking movie.
Yeah. You could
Joseph,
do-
do you have any space things you want to talk about?
Not really. The only thing that really got me thinking, Gabe talking about like the heat death. I mean, this isn't really STEM. However, I took a philosophy class in high school, and we talked about how between the Big Bang and like the heat death, right? Those are like the two like common, or like that's common knowledge, quote unquote, that like it more or less started with Big Bang. It's most likely gonna end with the heat death.
It's like the most accepted theory.
Yeah. So, then it comes down to, okay, so what caused the Big Bang? And if you look at it, there's like three options where it's a one-time thing where there was one Big Bang, and it linear until one heat death, and then that's it, right? Like then after that there's nothing. There's another theory that like it's cyclical, so like the heat death and the Big Bang are like the same point, and it just goes in a circle.
Right.
Interesting.
Or it's still linear, but it's going from heat death to it's same thing as the cyclical one, but it just extends on instead of being
So it's like a
cyclical.
line
So
instead of a circle.
yeah, so like the idea is like stuff isn't repeating like it is if it's
It's a
cyclical,
new-
it's like that's like multiverse stuff. Whereas
Yeah.
like if it's linear, it's like different things happen. And the most likely from like from a scientific and from like a philosophical point would be the extending on. And I just thought that was interesting, and how even the only way that the one time or the cyclical really work is if like religion is involved, and then it makes sense that
Mhm.
there is a
Right.
being or something that created it, and then it stopped
Is resetting.
But then
or
there's
stopping.
still the question of what started
that
the
being
first
Yeah.
instance.
Exactly, and like that, so that makes you think like
And you can
if
just
this
keep
is like
going forever. Like, well, who
Yeah.
made that person and who made this?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well,
Or
speaking of
maybe
like go ahead, Joseph.
I was saying, or maybe I got it confused, where it's the only cyclical is the only one that works, because otherwise there is a beginning and an actual beginning and an actual end if it's linear but repeating. I
Right.
forget. It was like 5 years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, I always think that's super interesting how there's like kind of three possibilities, but really only one of them is.
Yeah. I've seen a
accurate
few
or
other like
possible.
theories too, where it's like the universe is expanding, right? Like that's pretty much well observed. That like it'll expand to the point where like it just dissipates, and that's part of the heat death too. I think actually, where like it expands so much that nothing is close enough for it to interact. So
Yeah.
like even though there may be some like ability to to have interaction, but they're just too physically far apart. There's other ones where like it expands and then it just like rubber bands back and like smacks back into like one condensed point. And I think that's one of them where it's like that's where they think maybe the Big Bang started, is where like it snaps back into like this really small condensed space and then it just goes off
and
again.
then it's so compressed that it expands out,
right.
which is just ridiculous to even think about the edge of the universe.
That's what I was about to bring up. It's like,
Yeah.
if we are observing the universe expanding, what are we observing exactly? What does that edge look like? Because space is empty. You know what I'm
Dude,
saying?
yeah.
I
I think it's
don't
technically
we can.
the edge if there's no matter at all. I don't know. What the fuck? I don't know. Ask a scientist.
I don't think we can observe the edge. Like we can observe results of it expanding.
Yeah, I
Kind of like
think
the black hole, where like we obviously can't take a picture of a black hole, but we can take,
We can
images
sense that it's there.
of like results of it, or like how it affects things around it. So we can like see things that it's changed, but we can't really see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we just look at like the planets, right, or like stars or whatever, and we see how fast they're moving, and then we can see that they're accelerating because they're, what is it, redshifted, I think.
Right.
So that means that they're
Measure the
moving
distance between
away
them.
faster than. It means that they're moving away from us because like the light stretches, I think. No.
Dude, that also reminds me of
Something
that
like
other crazy idea where it's like, if you look at something that's like 50 light years away, you're looking at it from 50 years ago. We're like,
Mhm.
because the light took 50 years to get to you. Isn't that
Yeah.
fucking nuts? Like, yeah, you can observe that, but that could have happened 100 years ago, 100 million years ago, and you're just now seeing it because the light just reached your telescope or whatever. That just like, I don't know. It's
Well, that's the
fucking
thing. If an alien was to look at our planet and was 65 million light years away, it would just see dinosaurs. It wouldn't see us.
crazy. Right.
You know, like that in itself is
All right, we
Yeah.
need to get
Ridiculous.
a freaking space telescope, place it 65 million years ago, just so we can see what these dinos actually looked like instead of all these artist renditions from fossils.
But
The
by the time
problem
we
is-
would get that in
Yeah,
that
by the
position,
time we
it
get
would have
there,
already
Nah,
passed.
we just see us now.
No, get that out of here. Get that out of here. I just
And
want to
then
get
travel
that.
faster than
and
the
then
speed
to
of light.
transmit the actual data back.
Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. This is gonna be the next,
Take
the
another
next topic.
65 million
This is
to
gonna
get
be a
back.
topic on my next sci-fi book that I write.
No loopholes there.
The
Don't worry about it.
dinosaurs sent the telescope out, so
Oh,
now we're receiving
that makes a
Yeah.
lot more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. See,
transmission.
you guys were too small brain to accept that the T-Rex actually had a 500 IQ.
I'm pretty sure the T-Rex is the one with the small brain, dude.
Pretty sure
Mhm.
IQ only goes to like 180. I don't think it goes.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Not
about
for
it.
T-Rexes.
Oh, okay.
They have advanced IQ.
Joseph brought up the idea of the multiverse earlier, and I want to talk about parallel universes for a second.
Mm.
One, do you believe in them or not? I personally think they're a fantastic idea to explore in fiction, but I just cannot perceive parallel universes actually being a thing.
I don't know. I feel like they're totally. I think it's totally a possibility. Just we can't conceive of them. I don't know.
I just don't know how that would even work,
Well,
you know?
it isn't supposed to
Because
be.
it would go back to the beginning of the universe kind of a thing. But it's like, okay, one day I drink the lime LaCroix, another day I drink the raspberry, and that
Yeah, like
that
every
flips
time
it-
there's
that
a
splits
decision,
into two
it
different
splits it,
universes.
yeah.
But it's the fact that, well, it's not even the fact they exist, it's also the fact that we could possibly like travel between them or perceive other ones. Like their entire shows and movies based on that. But I don't know. I feel like in my opinion, or with my limited knowledge of the universe, to me it just seems like whatever happens, and that's it. Like
I don't think
if
that
something else
there's
could have
like.
happened, then it would have happened.
I feel like there isn't a way to like. I don't know, go between them. But I think it's an interesting thought experiment to think of like, what if I made this decision in my life and like see how that played out and how that affects. Because like it's like the butterfly effect, right? Where like every decision you make can drastically change. Like let's say instead of me going in IT, I become a doctor and I end up saving people's lives instead of fixing their fucking resetting their passwords. You know, like that affects multiple different people and stuff like
You
that.
could have done something useful.
Right, yeah, exactly. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if it. I don't think
But
there's
it's
any,
like, yeah, you
physical
could have
evidence
done
of it
that,
being
Gabe, but
true.
you didn't. You know.
But maybe there's another version of me who did, and I'm a good person in another.
That doesn't make sense to me because if they had the same exact upbringing as you, right? They had the same brain as you, so they wouldn't have made that decision. You know what I'm getting at? Like,
But
would've made
there's
a-
also external factors that go into your decision making.
That's the thing, is like, how many people, right? Okay, just think about how many decisions have been made. Not even by you or people you know. Just decisions in general that have been made to lead to us four doing a podcast right now.
Yeah, it's crazy how
Like,
small that number is.
Just going back to like our individual ancestry and like our parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, right? And like those decisions that made like that my parents got married and had, you know, my older three sisters and then me and like and
Well,
so on, like
and then
all
picking
these
tech, and
Yeah,
then
like-
podcast as an idea, even.
Yeah, or like even like the fact that like the internet was created, or like the each individual technologies that we use for this were created when they were to be developed to the point that they are now, right? Like I'm streaming at least on gigabit Ethernet, which is ridiculous for most. Yeah, I know. it's ridiculous.
I'm flipping him off for all the audio listeners.
Because it's just such an incredible technological advance where we're at. But decisions still had to be made, and that's not a one decision thing. Even to get like,
I'm not denying that at all. What I'm
So,
getting
like-
at is, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, it's so unfathomable, even to get to the point, to get to this exact scenario, that like to even think about that there being different ones. It's entirely possible, but it's so impossible for us to fathom.
Yeah.
Right? Because yeah, Gabe, it wasn't one decision that made Gabe go to tech to not be a doctor and go into IT or CNSA. But there were thousands of decisions that you know, just from the time Gabe was born to the time he was 2 years old. Millions
Right.
of decisions, and any one of those could have changed and made him a different person who he is.
They could have, but they didn't. That's what I'm like. If we're to subscribe to the theory that whenever a decision is made, the universes get split because of different outcomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the theory.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like up until that point, everything's exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
If everything's exactly the same up to that point, why would different versions of a person make different decisions? Because they have the same exact experience, same exact conditions. That person would not make two different decisions. You know?
I mean, you've been conflicted over like if you want to do this or that, right?
There's probably
Yeah,
a
I've been
timeline
no,
where
yeah,
you
people
have
are
a full-time
conflicted.
job right now.
But
versus,
there
like,
isn't,
going
because
back
I
to graduate
didn't
school.
end up making that decision. Even if you're conflicted, you still end up making a decision, and I feel like that you would always make that one in the end. You know? Because it's your
So-
brain and your experience. Like if everything's the same up until that point, why would there be different?
See,
why would
I don't
we
like
do
that
then,
because
hold
it
on.
takes away control from me.
Yeah. So
Because
then
you
do
make it
believe
sound
in
like no matter
destiny?
what, I'm going to make a decision that's already predetermined. I don't like that.
That's a philosophical argument right there. Like, I
Yeah,
can't
because that
remember
brings
the-
into question like destiny and like
yeah,
whether
it's like your predisposition, like if you
Right.
believe in fate or if you believe in free will. And I think there's if I remember more from the class that I took in New Zealand that I did not attend very much, I would probably be able to speak on this, but I don't remember any of it. I just know that there's a philosophical argument about fate versus free will.
It's
And
like
what you're
Calvinism,
talking
right?
about.
Isn't that it?
What?
Isn't Calvinism the one where that's predestination?
I don't think so.
I feel like it is.
Probably.
I don't know.
We could look it up, but
I don't like the idea that, like, no matter what, I would have made that decision, because I feel like that takes away my individual feeling of free will. You know what I mean? Like, I'd much rather want to feel like I had control over that decision.
I mean, you do have control. I'm just saying that if the same exact if you had the same exact, you know, parents and weather every day and clothes and everything happened the same as it did up to that point, you'd still make the same decision because it's your brain. Like, and even if you're conflicted, you're still gonna end on the same one that you always do because nothing was different.
It's
I-
determinism.
I think
Determinism
you're
versus free will.
focusing on like big decisions, but like even like decisions where like, okay, I'm making dinner, right? What do I want to make for dinner? Or like, do I want, there you just make so many decisions throughout the day that
See-
like I feel like if you only focus on big decisions, like which school do I go to, what do I do today?
I'm even talking about like what shirt you wear one day. Because you go to the closet, you look at your shirts, and like, okay, I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I have this stack or whatever, which I'm gonna wear, and something makes you pick whatever one. And I'm saying that that something will always be good to pick that same one because the conditions were exactly the same, and you're the exact same person.
I think I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Joseph, but I'm guessing the way I think about it is like there is only one version of me that makes that exact specific decision that puts me in that exact environment. You know what I mean? Like, whether that be breakfast or clothes or whatever, like, I don't know. There wouldn't be any situation where it's exact same parents, exact same everything, because their lives are affected by all sorts of different decisions, and my life is affected by all sorts of different situations. So there's a different environment almost every time.
But my logic applies to them too. Every single person that's ever existed, look, they're always going to make the same decisions. If you rewound back to the beginning of the universe and press play, it would always play out the same way because if nothing changed, if the weather was different one day, then yeah, butterfly effect, everything. But I'm saying if everything stayed the same, then everything would stay the same in the future. If you don't change the past, the future's gonna be the same.
I don't know. I
Time
don't
travel.
like that. I don't like that because that's like. So isn't there like that famous idea that like Kennedy purposely wanted an open top limousine or whatever? Like, let's take that example. What if that morning he saw something on the news about someone getting shot or something, and he's like, I want a closed limousine or whatever. That would completely change the way history is.
Yeah, but he didn't. Is what I'm getting at.
But I'm
Somebody
saying
went
is
back
there
and
could be a
changed that.
completely different variable that could have changed at that point in time.
Yeah, they
So-
totally could have been, but there wasn't.
So Jacob, what's your opinion on quantum theory and the fact that we cannot know? No, this is linking into your determinism.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah, I just
If
My
in
knowledge of
quantum
quantum theory
theory,
is not great.
okay, I'm gonna explain what I'm saying. Then.
Yeah.
So quantum theory, we cannot possibly know the location and the velocity of an electron.
Yeah.
It's we can either know one or the other. So
It's
that
spooky.
that in and of itself should say that no universe will ultimately be the same because we can only know one. We can't know both.
Yet.
I okay, but then
Right?
right,
I mean,
right now
I don't know.
in this moment,
Yeah.
then it's not possible
In
for
this
it to be
timeline.
deterministic.
But we might have the science someday where we explain that and then be like, oh, now we get it, and we could always like, you know what I'm saying? Like we might eventually
But-
have that understanding.
Okay, we might. That's not scientific. That's not scientific, Jacob.
It's not. That's the best I can give
basing
you
your
right now.
beliefs on mights instead of this is factually true is how you get yourself into trouble.
Okay, well let me say what's factually true, right? We cannot determine the exact location and velocity.
So how can you
Is
say
velocity or
that every
acceleration?
well, it's velocity.
Velocity.
Yeah, because it's your
At this-
your speed and then also direction. So that
So you're saying that
should-
it possibly, if we like reset the universe, even if the exact same conditions, in one instance, a electron might be in a different location or have a different speed, and that could change.
yeah, and
Oh,
there's no way for
on a
us to
reset.
know that.
Yeah, there is no way for us to know that.
I guarantee
So
you,
that-
if you reset
that's-
it, it'd be
that's
completely
enough.
different.
That's enough to say that in an instance where everything should be the same, it very well might not be the same because of those instances where we don't know what can possibly happen.
But we also don't know that it would be different.
That's such a bad argument. Like-
Well, I'm just saying it goes both ways. Like, yeah, we don't know if it'd be
I-
the same. We also don't know it'd be different. Based on what I have perceived, I would assume that everything would be the same.
But that's what
just
you
like said.
perceive, not what the universe actually does.
I'm not saying I'm factually right. I'm just saying this is my opinion.
That's fair.
It's-
You can have your.
And I think
opinion.
Dayton has a good argument because yeah, that's definitely one thing that we cannot explain, and that's one thing that
Especially-
could affect everything.
If you think about like it wasn't a decision for humans to evolve
or Earth
I mean,
to even exist. In
or
the
yeah,
first place.
for the Earth to be habitable. That was not a decision made by under as far as we know, it was not a decision made by anyone or anything. It was just more or less happenstance. So like, yeah, again with like we don't there's no way to say for a fact that it would be created exactly the same. I'm sure, yeah, if I relived today or, 2 weeks ago, relived it, didn't know it, I probably wouldn't make the same decisions to leave where I'm. Maybe. I mean, I guess I can't say for sure, but like to get to this point, I feel like it would not always be the same if you reset. If you reset time and I came back.
Earth may not even be a thing in a reset.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is if we have the same conditions, I'll just say with humans.
For humans, right?
Or and I'll just say I would go too far as say any living organism. Under the same conditions, they'll make the same decision they would always make.
But what I'm saying is it's not always the same conditions. There's
And
no way to
I don't know.
determine if
I don't
there's-
know that. Yeah. I'm just saying if they are the same, then I would assume that
Except
the same
what
decisions would be
what evidence is there to say that it is the same when quantum theory says that there's no way for us to know if it's actually the same down to the subatomic level.
made. Yeah,
even-
there isn't. I'm just saying it's the gut feeling / opinion that I have.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. If we reset it, then yeah, the quantum positioning of electrons might be different. That might change everything. I'm just saying that if Joseph relived today without any he woke up today and didn't remember that today happened, he would probably do the same thing.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Speaking of
make
time,
many decisions today, if I'm being perfectly honest.
speaking of time travel, we all watched Avengers Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if
really
all
liked-
our listeners did, though.
Well, I can explain what I'm getting at here, but I really liked how their version of time travel they did, because I thought it was very unique and very logical for what we currently know and everything.
The only
They
thing
said
I
Back to
remember
the
is we
Future
came
was
out of the
bullshit.
theater. We came out of the theater, and the first thing Dave said out of his mouth is eigenvalues. That's bullshit.
It was, dude. He literally said eigenvalues out of nowhere just because it sounds fancy. Like it's just like he
It
literally
sounds
said
like a math thing.
like it was just like get out of here with that bullshit. Like
Yeah, he said grab
not-
that eigenvalue over here or
it's
something.
like it's like
something along that lines.
you're not fooling me, okay, Mr. Stark.
I go to
know-
a technological university.
Like
I've
I
taken
don't-
linear
I
algebra.
may not feel so well, but it's not because I'm not. It's not because I'm deteriorating. It's because you're fucking talking out your ass.
So, so their version of time travel as compared to like Back to the Future, for example. So Back to the Future, you got a dumbass kid who wants to go change the past. So he gets in a time machine, goes back to the past, changes something, comes back to the future, and everything's different, right? What I like with the Avengers version is that if you go back to the past, that is now your future, which is really hard to explain, but it's
What's
like
your present?
it's
Yeah.
your present now. It's like where you are. So like on your timeline, it'd be like on, what is it today? November 10th, Jacob traveled back in time, and then the timeline keeps moving, and then, he existed in that timeline.
Would be
or
your
that-
timeline, right?
It'd
Or
be
like-
your time. Like your timeline is always linear. It
Like,
doesn't you don't
yeah.
jump and go back to your past and then you jump back to the forward. It's always linear. Like
Isn't the idea, so like let's say you go back 2 days. So you go back to November 8th. Your timeline is now November 8th, but the timeline of the 10th keeps going for everyone else.
yeah,
Right?
You're still like the same age. You're not like 2 days younger.
Right, but
Right,
everyone
you're
else
still-
is still on the same November 10th timeline.
Yeah. And I thought that was fascinating, 'cause I feel like it's never been explained like that before, like how your personal timeline is always moving forward. Like you never jump back and forth. It's just straight. And I think that was super fascinating. And I hope that more like media does time travel like that, because I think that makes the most sense, right? Because like if you're jumping back and forth, like the butterfly effect and just everything just kind of gets really, really messy really fast. Because like trying to jump back to the future that isn't the same anymore, like it doesn't really make sense. But also, I mean, traveling in the past doesn't really make sense at all.
I'm gonna be real here. I still don't understand the endgame time travel.
It's pretty messy.
It is pretty messy.
It
I
took me like at
understood
least
it
3 times to
more.
watch the
So
movie to figure it out.
the one part that always confused me was when Hulk is talking to what's her name, bald chick.
Nebula?
Yeah, no, Doctor Strange's master.
Oh,
Yeah.
ancient one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
bald chick. So they're like having that conversation, and he was like, "If I take the stones out of your timeline withers, right? And I branch off into mine, but he has to like go back and
Go
place
back
them."
to like end all of the
to
other
kill the
alternate
branches, right?
timelines.
And that part was like that made it more confusing for me, to be honest.
Yeah, the part I'm getting at that I think is fascinating is that your personal timeline is always linear, whereas I feel like in other media it's like you jump. It's a lot of jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
And this is a straight line. It's just sometimes you're in 1940.
See, my
sometimes you're in
beef
2019.
with it is
the bullshit that Tony Stark was spewing.
It's all about the electrons.
Okay, so that's a whole nother story. But all right, so the Captain America scene, right, where Captain fights Captain, right?
Yeah.
That's
And-
America's ass right there.
Yeah, America's ass, right? Slapping that. Like in the original Avengers movie, right, or whatever movie it was, Captain didn't fight Captain, did he?
Well,
No,
we didn't see it.
Because
but
this is
also
a
no.
new timeline now. It goes back to like kind of parallel universe saga because they
But you don't believe
so
in
the
the
present
parallel
day
universe
Captain
theory.
America time traveled back to 2009 or something. You're right, and then they're
Yeah.
there now, and that is the new present.
What happens to the old present?
It's farther back in their own timeline. So like I'm trying to explain this over audio is really
Yeah, I don't even know if you
But,
could
like-
draw it right now and like have it.
Okay, so let's say that like the Avengers movie is point A, right? Everything happens how we saw in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Avengers Endgame is point B. So like between A and B that's all normal, right?
It's continuous.
It's continuous, right? And then they travel back to 2009 again. Now we're at point C. And then
It's-
Captain and fights Captain. Now we're at point D. We're still one straight line. That still happened to them, but now we're just moving forward with a new timeline. And now, even though it's still technically 2009, it's still farther in the timeline by 10 years than it was at point A. Because all those things happened to Captain because he lived it, right? But now he's going back and fighting himself. But we're still just moving forward in the timeline. We're not jumping back to point A. We're going to point D.
It's
That
messy.
makes sense. It's messy, but like the more you think about it, I feel like it makes sense. Like
I
you're
don't
not
know,
changing
Jacob.
the
I've thought
past.
about it quite a bit, and I don't.
I
You're not
think
changing
that
the past by jumping back to point A. You're just moving forward and going. You're just still going to point D. There's no jumping backwards.
I
You're just
feel like a lot of
moving
time
forward.
travel in TV shows and movies uses the traditional sense where like in traditional time travel, he would fight Captain and Captain would he'd remember fighting himself and just be like that was weird and keep going, right?
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
that's
Because
what I'm
it's
talking
easier
about.
to
How does that
understand
not-
for
How does that
people.
not happen?
So like
because we're moving forward. We're not jumping back to point A.
But
There's no-
Captain still realizes that he's fighting Captain.
in 2009. 2009 Captain knows he's fighting 2019 Captain.
No, he doesn't. He thinks it's Loki. Remember, he's like, "Oh, you're Loki," disguised as.
I guess, yeah, because then he gets his ass kicked, but
He never says like, "Oh, you're from the future." Like that doesn't ever happen.
yeah.
But still, 2019 Captain never fought himself until he himself goes back.
Right, but when he was in 2009, he did fight himself just from 2019.
But I'm saying that he didn't remember. Oh yeah, I already did this 10 years ago. It's like no, I'm doing this now.
He
when
would
I'm-
remember it though, because he fought himself.
No, because
Okay.
it's a different.
Okay, let me
No,
do
no,
this
no.
part.
I
Makes sense,
get what
but
you're
it
saying. I get what you're
does.
saying. I'm just
I
saying
bet-
like that's
here.
like the traditional sense of time travel, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me explain it this way. So let's say 2009 Cap was 30 years old. I know it's not true, but let's just say he's 30, right? So he's 30 years old in 2009, right? And Endgame, let's say he's 40, right? 10 years have passed, so he's 40 years old, right?
It's pretty old.
When he
for a
travels back to
superhero.
2009, he's still 40, right?
Yeah.
He's still 40, right? And then he fights his 30-year-old self, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that happens, he doesn't go, "Oh yeah, back when I was 30, I fought myself." He doesn't have that memory because it didn't happen when he was 30. It happened when he was 40. He doesn't just new memories don't pop up in his brain because they happened in 2009. They happened because they happened when he was 40 because
Yeah.
that's his present.
No,
and
I
it moves
get
forward
where
in
you're
the
coming
future.
from. I'm just saying like the traditional way of
Yeah,
thinking
the
of time
traditional-
travel would be the way I explained it previously. Where,
Yes.
like, he would
That's what
know
my
he
whole
fought
argument-
himself, and then he was just like, oh, it was Loki, and then when he becomes 40, he's like, oh shit, I actually fought myself. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't think about it. Like,
Yes,
I think the
but
reason that
that's-
one's so much more popular is it makes a lot more sense initially.
Yeah,
It's a lot
I
easier to
think-
explain.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot
no-
easier to comprehend.
Yes.
But I think that the end game version is more logical, with the limited knowledge of
I
physics that
couldn't
we have.
attest to any of that. I think they're just both different ways of looking at it.
Hmm.
But.
Dayton's not buying it.
Dayton's out
I've
for
had-
Jacob's blood to this episode.
I've had it explained to me about 4 or 5 different times, and I still don't buy it.
Which
just
way?
skeptical.
The Avengers way or like the traditional way?
The Avengers way.
Okay.
Well, it's like
Okay,
it's more. I don't know how it's supposed to work, but I think regardless, it's probably bullshit.
Well, I feel like time travel in general is bullshit.
Yeah.
Traveling
I
to the
know.
past is bullshit.
You can only go in the future, right?
You can only go to the future, and
'Cause-
that's through the interstellar way.
Yeah, if you like technically went around a black hole, the gravity is denser, so time moves faster for you. So you could go forward.
But we
but you
don't
couldn't go
know.
backwards.
We don't know if time is linear. Yeah. We don't know if
Okay,
it's only
now-
moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, okay, hold on. Explain that though. Explain that.
Like there's, as far as I know, there's nothing that says in the laws of physics that time can only move forwards.
But what would be the implications of it moving a different direction?
I don't know. That's outside of anything I've ever read about.
Like, could time stop then?
I don't know. I don't think so. That doesn't make sense to me because that means that like it equals 0, right? Like the rate of change equals 0 for time, and I don't think that makes sense.
That's
the
what
rate- isn't
happens
the rate
at
of
the
change
center
already
of black
0?
holes.
If time is moving constantly, the rate of change would be 0.
Okay, yeah, I guess like the velocity of time. I feel like the velocity of time has to stay non-zero.
What
I
about the
feel like-
acceleration? That's what we're getting at. Like, will the acceleration of time ever?
No, I mean
be
the acceleration
non-zero?
of time. I mean you can, based on your frame of reference, it can be non-normal, right? Abnormal.
Yeah.
But how would it move backwards? That's
I don't
That's
know.
what I'm trying to get
I-
at.
I don't think- I don't
what
think
they
there's
even
any-
mean.
As far as I know, I don't think there's any evidence that it does move backwards. But I'm saying from the physical standpoint,
There's nothing to prove that it can't.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's
We've
fair.
just not seen where it can.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But even if time can we? Which I don't know if we can.
I don't know. Maybe if we had the eigenvalues.
Yeah. I feel like that would. I don't know. I feel like they get so messy. If you like put yourself back in time, like what happens to all the matter that makes you? Does that go back in time when it was?
Oh,
back-
that's a whole nother
like,
philosophical.
you know what I'm
argument
saying?
right
Like, what
there.
happens?
That's like mind and body.
Do
right
you
there.
just
That's-
transport
Are you?
your?
Because like, are you creating matter?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're, let's say it's
Yeah.
2000, you go back to 2009. Do I take current Gabe and like 2019 matter Gabe goes back and I just made new matter from 2009, or like in 2009, or do I become what I was in 2009? Like, how the fuck does that work?
See, dude, that's a whole nother philosophical argument right there. There's an argument where like if you're making a teleporter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is different than time travel, but also like
Oh, is
not
this where you
different
like
'cause you're-
destroy yourself and rebuild it?
Yeah. So
Right.
it's just like who's to say that you're the same person if you went through a teleporter?
Right.
Sort
Well,
of deal.
there's an analogy or whatever. Like if you have a ship and you replace one board of the ship.
It's Odysseus'
every day.
ship or something like that.
Yeah, if you replace one board of the ship every day, but you take that board and use it to build a new ship, which one is the original ship?
Mm-hmm.
Like at what point is
Once
the
The
Once
one
the
where the
original
boards were
ship-
replaced.
Once the original ship, which you've been replacing from, is completely new material and there's nothing from the original ship on it.
Well, that's how people work. Isn't it like every cell in your body gets replaced every 7 years or something like that? Or
It's
10
less.
years?
Well, it depends what kind of cell it is, but.
But
cells are
that's the
regenerating
same
all time.
argument, right?
That's,
But you
that's the
recycle-
mind,
all your
mind
cells are
versus
recycled.
body. That's mind versus like body right there. Like it's a whole. I'm not. I feel.
I want to
like
go back to
probably,
teleportation
Okay,
for a second
okay.
before we end, because like, yeah, I never thought about the matter side of things. Because how would you teleport without breaking the laws of physics? Because like, okay, if I like walk from one side room to another, you can track at every single point in time, it's down to the smallest, interval where I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matter has never been created or destroyed. Matter is existing at a certain time, in space, even though I'm moving from one place to another. you're teleporting, in one instant you're in, the United States, not when you're in London. And that what's happening in between the time that you're
I think
not
it
in
gets
one place
shipped,
or the
doesn't
other.
it? Isn't that the idea? Where you just ship
All right,
your matter into
here.
smaller
This
pieces?
is gonna be the best way that I can describe it. Okay.
Okay, hold
All
on.
right. So you
hold
have
on.
a sheet of paper, right?
Oh God! Don't do it.
You
Do not
fold the
poke a
piece-
hole through it. I swear to God,
You
Dayton.
fold the paper. in
Don't
half,
fucking do it. Oh my God.
Poke through the paper, and now you can move from one side to the other super easily. See, now you have two holes. That is A and B.
Oh my God.
All right,
I mean-
that was a meme. That was a meme. If
Yeah,
anyone
but I mean,
was
also, I
unclear.
mean, that's not entirely false, right? I mean, because at every point you're existing in a certain time in a point in space, you're just reducing that distance you can, travel.
I'm bending space time.
Yeah. Don't
I
really want
was
to teleport,
gonna-
so help me figure it out.
Bring up the Willy
Dude,
Wonka
If I could
example.
teleport to work and not have to have a fucking car, holy shit, that'd be amazing.
You guys remember in the original Willy Wonka when they could teleport candy bars to the TV?
No.
And the guy jumps in it and he becomes like 3 inches tall or something like that. And
Mhm.
there's a scene where they show like the particles moving above their heads. That's how I imagine it.
Can't
I've
say I've
never-
seen it.
I've
It's
never
just like
watched that.
little particles moving across.
See, I don't buy the whole part your body dissolves and rebuilds itself, because I feel like there's no way to accurately do that 100% of the time.
Probably not. But that's the way I imagine it. It's like your body just gets shipped through it's like the internet. It gets shipped under a big cable under the ocean, and that's how everybody talks to each other.
So
yeah, but
if
you can't turn your body into electrons.
I don't know how it works. I'm just saying that's how I imagine it.
Yeah. I feel like you have to poke a hole in space-time, which is
Yeah.
very complicated.
Take a notepad and a pencil.
Hey, it's a pen. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Big difference.
Clearly.
All right, well, that's
Maybe-
probably a good place to
Maybe
end the
one of my other
podcast.
timelines, I had a pencil instead of a pen on this podcast.
It's entirely possible. But according to
Let's get
Jacob,
started.
you always bought that pen. You were never thinking
Yeah.
about having
Say,
pencils.
are you a pen guy or a pencil guy? You know.
There's a universe where Dayton is a pencil guy. I'm just saying. And there's a universe where Jacob agrees with us. That's the one I like to think about.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like-
thanks for listening to this universe where we did the podcast. You can find our new episodes every Monday on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. And you should follow us on Instagram for some dumbass pictures. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.